Okay. My name is Tori Roberts, and I am the archives technician here for the Warren County Record Center and Archives. Today is Friday, July 26th. I am here
2019.
2019, thank you. I am here with Jennifer Baker, Deputy Archivist, and Jana Wells, Imaging Supervisor, and then I'll let you introduce yourself.
I'm Beverly Susan Melampy.
Okay. So what's going to happen is we're going to ask some general background questions first, and then we'll kind of get into what you actually came here for.
Okay.
So you've already said your name. So when and where were you born, if you would like to tell us? You don't actually have to
I was
tell
born
specifics.
in Dayton in 54.
Okay.
1954.
All right. And where did you grow up?
Lebanon.
All right. And then what were your parents' and siblings' names?
Elsie and Orville Melampy were my parents.
Okay.
And I had a brother, an older brother, Jim, and a younger brother, Benny. My younger brother was in Maryhaven with me.
Okay.
Our older brother was much older than us.
How old's Benny?
Benny's 60 now. He thinks he's still young, but
Don't we all?
All right. So where all have you lived?
oh God.
You can give us a few if you want. You can give us a lot. You can give us one.
Well, I guess the first time I left Lebanon was in '71. I went to Louisiana and lived in Morgan City, Louisiana for a year. And then I went in the military in '73. And I was stationed at Nellis Air Force Base, Las Vegas, Nevada. Then I was stationed at Kadena Air Base, Japan, which is actually Okinawa.
Okay. Interesting.
And then my last assignment was Scott Air Force Base in outside St. Louis.
All right. And you've already said you were in the military, so what other jobs have you had? Or if you would like to tell us, what did you do while you were in the military?
Well, I started working, I thought I started working when I was 12, but I actually started when I was 11. I found that out just last 2 weeks ago when I saw my friend. She said that Duff's Smorgasbord, you might want this information, Duff's Smorgasbord in South Lebanon opened in 1965, and that was my first job. Cheryl's mother, Marie Cole, was the manager there, and we weren't old enough to get work release permits, so she let us work there for tips, bussing tables. So that was actually my first job, and I think that place actually opened only on weekends when they first opened up, and then it became a big business.
We have some old advertisements for their.
Well, they used to be very good.
Yeah.
It was a good place to go.
Nice. All right, so now that we've covered some of this, we're going to get into some of the actual questions pertaining to Maryhaven. They kind of covered the basics at first, and then we'll get into more specialized about what your specific experiences were. So, when did you enter the children's home, and how long were you there? You can give a rough estimate.
We were there twice, actually.
Okay.
God. First time would have been it was right around 60, I guess. Yeah, 1960, I guess.
Okay. And
then the final time coming out of this music was 68.
okay, and you were there twice during that time.
Yeah, that seems like a lot of years in there. I think it's right.
We'll take it.
So you were about 6 when you.
Yeah, Benny was 4. So yeah, I was 6 or 7.
Nice.
Yeah, so.
Okay, so while you were at the home, what school did you attend?
You had to be of school age, so we had to wait a year before Benny went in. I guess I went to, well, that would have been, I was in Dunleavy at one point, and then went to, what was the middle school? Berry.
Berry Middle School?
But I don't think, it wasn't Berry Middle School yet. It was actually the old high school at that point.
All right. While you were at school, were you ever singled out for being a children's home resident?
Always. Main reason I quit school was a teacher making a remark.
So is it from the students and teachers that would seem
Well, actually, this teacher, when I look back on it now, he was actually trying to say something nice to me, but I took it wrong. Because he announced in front of the class that, you know, I can't remember how it was exactly, but he said my parents were screwed up and, you know, I was okay in spite of it.
Yeah.
That's basically what he was trying to say, but it didn't compute that way, and I thought he was making fun of me, and I out the door I went, and I never went back.
Yeah, that's a touchy subject to approach during school time.
Yeah.
So out of curiosity, did you ever finish school or did you get your GED?
No, I got my GED.
Gotcha.
I actually, since writing has become such a big part of my life, my last grade of English was 7th. That's the last grade of English I ever had.
I will say you're a very talented person then. So you said that Benny was in the home with you. Did you guys ever get to spend any time together while you were there?
No, the inside of the hallway, it was a beautiful hallway, marble. For some reason I had this green, like a real soft green color in my mind. I've asked my brother, he doesn't remember the color, but I have this soft green colored marble in the hallway, and these big huge stairways that faced each other, and we would sit on the stairs. The boys were on one side and the girls were on the other, and we would line up on the stairs, and up the stairs would be, and he'd be directly across from me, and we'd make faces at each other. We weren't allowed to talk to each other because we were boys and girls, and the boys and girls were not allowed to communicate whatsoever. And so we'd make faces at each other and stuff. And then on the bus, sometimes we rode the bus together. It seemed like occasionally, for some reason, I don't know how that worked, but we sometimes talked on the bus. But ordinarily, the only time we really got to talk was on visiting day when my dad would come, and we'd both visit at the same time with him.
Were you separated at mealtime also?
No, at mealtime, well, we'd be on the stairs, and then Mom and Pop's, it was like the hallway was like this. Mom and Pop Saunders' apartment was right here at the bottom of the stairs. This was the girls' stairs, and then the boys' stairs over here. And we'd be looking at each other, and back this hallway was the dining room. And when they would come out of their apartment, everybody would stand up quietly and come down the stairs and line up and go in and have dinner, or whatever meal it was. And since I was the oldest, I always helped with the meals and stuff. I learned how to cook for huge, huge amounts of people pretty early, including when I got suspended from school for smoking. They told me they were gonna make me clean the entire Mary Haven with a toothbrush, but instead I had to bake 72 batches of cookies.
Oh my gosh!
For all the kids' parents that were coming for the holiday, I had to make cookies, so everybody had cookies to give their parents.
Was that a sufficient punishment?
It was. I never wanted to see another cookie as long as I lived at that point.
How long does it take to cook 72 dozen?
It was a couple of days. I have tried so hard to remember that cook's name. She was a wonderful lady. She had a house. She lived on 741 in Green Tree Road. I can remember it was a big brick house, because I went to her house a couple times to pick up supplies or something. But I can't remember her name. But she taught me so much, and now I lost track of what I was saying.
She taught you how to cook.
Oh yeah, and she taught me cooking and everything, and she helped me with the cookies. That's where that was. She helped me with those cookies. Because I never baked a cookie in my life until that time. I think I was probably 12. But, you know, I had to be cool at school. Smoke a cigarette. Foolish.
That's okay. So, beyond the 2 stairwells and the dining room, can you kind of describe the general setup of the building for us? Like where the sleeping quarters were, the restrooms, communal areas. We don't actually have detailed blueprints of Mary Haven at all.
There were, you don't have, wow,
Not
that's
the inside.
unbelievable.
No, just the outside.
Well, there were 3 stories,
Mm-hmm.
and the ground level or the basement was like, you know, you could see the windows of the basement from the outside, so you can get an idea of how it's set. But there was the basement, and in the basement they had a storage room that had this huge shelves full of toys that people donated. There was always something there whenever anybody had a birthday or anything, because these people would bring huge amounts of stuff, you know, at Christmas time. So they had this big, well, I mean, naturally I was young, so it seemed even bigger, but they had this huge room just full of all kinds of toys and stuff. And they had lots of money on the books too, because they would contribute money.
Yeah.
And any money that was dispensed to us was given, they had a log book, you know, and they kept all your money. And when I ran away, that's how I planned it, was I knew I was going to have that Christmas money. And they put it on the file, and then whenever you would go shopping or whatever, you just take some of your money and go, and then that way, you know, they got control, and you're not doing things you shouldn't be doing with your money. But then I was telling you about the basement, and then there was this huge room where we did laundry, and I always helped doing laundry too. We had wringer washers, but we did have big dryers. I do remember we had big dryers. I'm not quite sure how that came to be, but we hung some stuff outside. But I mean, there was tons of laundry. As far as I can remember, there were between 35 and 40 boys, 35 and 40 girls. I think that was about standard from what I can recall. And then
What ages?
you had to be school age, because when we first went, my brother was not yet school age, and we had to wait until after he went to first grade. Couldn't go to kindergarten. Had to go first grade and be going full time before he could go to Mary Haven. Then 18 would be the leaving date. And Doug York, who I mentioned earlier, I believe he was there, and I know that he graduated school there, and I've heard that he used the money that was put away for college back whenever this was all created. But I don't know that for a fact. I've just heard that that's how he went to college. So I do have a question, what happened to the money? Because from what I recall, any child that was associated with Mary Haven after they graduated had access to at least 2 years of college. But I've never been able to find anything about it.
We'll have to do some digging, and if we find an answer, we'll let you know.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I actually went and looked under Mary Haven. I never knew what her name was, and I still don't remember what her name is.
Mary Ann Klingling.
Is it?
Yep.
In my mind,
A
I
German
can't
lady.
remember. Yep. Well, did you also see that it was originally created for white children?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of surprised me, really, for around here.
Yeah.
But then I'm getting off subject.
That's
So the
okay.
basement.
Let's
So,
see,
We've done the laundry room in the basement and the toy room.
and then they had storage. They had lots of storage, you know, for the food and everything was down there. That's pretty much what I remember of the basement.
Okay.
Then the first floor was Mom and Pop Saunders' apartment, and then there was the dining room, and the kitchen was off to the right. This was, if you were going out Main Street from here, from Lebanon, this would be
front door.
Yeah, this would be, actually the side door would come from this, shoot, what am I thinking? I'm trying to think. This is north. This is north, this is south. That's the easiest way to do it. North, south, east, and west.
So their apartment was on this
Yeah.
portion facing the
Yeah.
main street.
Right. And then I was trying to think what was under here and here. I can't. Their apartment must have extended this whole side of the building, but I can't recall. I can vaguely remember going in that apartment. But, excuse me, then the third floor was where we had, or the second floor was the living quarters mostly, like the sitting room with television and all that stuff, and any toys they would have and stuff like that. And then the third floor was the sleeping quarters. They were like open bays. I never saw the guys' side, but I'm sure they were the same from what my brother said. They were all open bays. I think all of us were in one single room, if I remember correctly. It seems like we were all in one single room, but it was a huge room. And I was always the oldest, so she let me stay by the door, and that pretty much, I think it pretty much covers the building. There was another building outside, but I can't remember what they had in that building.
So if you had the living quarters on the second floor, and you said that you guys didn't get a share as the girls didn't spend that much time with guys, was there like designated time for the girls to be in the living space?
Oh,
or
no.
were they separate
I'm sorry,
spaces?
they were separate.
Okay.
This end of the building was all boys, and this end of the building
Okay.
was girls.
So you guys all had the exact same things and only shared the dining facilities.
Right. And they actually had, the boys had two, well, they call them cottage parents, I believe. They had two women that took care of them, but Aunt Helen was the only one that looked out for us. You know, the little girls are so sweet, you know. So. Until they met me. No, really, I really wasn't that bad.
So who was Aunt Helen?
Her name was Helen Stephens, and she took care of the girls.
Okay.
She had one leg had been amputated from the knee down from a motorcycle accident. She was in with her boyfriend, and the best I can figure, you know, I was too young to ask all those questions. The best I can figure, I think her husband or her boyfriend must have died in that motorcycle accident, because when she'd have a day off, she'd go somewhere. I can remember her going away and be gone overnight and then coming right back. But I don't think she had much of a life. Other than us, I think she dedicated her life to us. And she was just so good with the kids. You know, and she'd go about it in a way where you'd feel guilty if you did something stupid to, you know, mess with her. So that you'd feel guilty instead of getting mad and crazy. You know, she was a smart lady. I can remember her so well. And she taught me how to use a buffer. I never had to pull KP in the military or any of the other stupid jobs you had to do, because I knew how to run a buffer. I had it made. Easiest job ever.
How old would you say she was when you were there?
I'd say she had to be in her 50s.
Okay.
Had to be. And I try to remember her face. I'm sure she did have some wrinkling in her face. She was such a nice lady. Just loved her to death. I'd love to know where she's buried even. I don't know anything at all about whatever happened
I
to her.
wrote down some information, so we might be able to figure it out for you.
That'd be great.
You
I
do a
don't
lot of
remember.
great research.
Don't know where she's from even.
Yeah.
But she was a super late. Everybody that I've talked to, I've actually now come into contact with a couple other people that I was in the home with, and I didn't realize it. But the girl who I ran away with, do you know Lola Thompson?
Yes.
Her sister. I ran her I ran away with her sister when I got ready to go.
I didn't realize they had been out there.
Oh yeah, I
didn't know
knew.
that.
Lola said that she didn't actually go there, that she went with another relative, but her sisters did go. And I can remember both of her sisters. I remember one little sister was, now I can't think of her name, but Karen was the one I ran away with. And when I got ready to go, she said, if you don't let me go, I'm telling. So here we went.
How old were you when you ran away?
I think I was 12. I'm pretty sure I had my 13th birthday at Juvenile Center, and when it first opened up. That's when I was first girl that was ever in that place.
We'll jump that in just a little bit. Yes. Because I would like to know that story as well.
Yeah, I want to know all about that.
So we'll answer the Mary Haven questions first.
All right, so we talked about the inside.
This is not going to go to the police or.
Oh no.
I'm just kidding. Well, I got my share of problems with them too.
There you go. So the inside of the building we talked about. How about the outside? What kind of things did you guys have on the property that you could do? Like, was there a garden?
There was a garden, and I can remember we used to go out there and get stuff from the garden for the for dinner. But I think that the cook that I talked about before, I think she grew stuff at her house too that she brought in there. It seems to me like that might have been part of what we used to bring in from her house, because I can remember going there, not a lot, but a few times during the summer, because she was kind of looking out for me, I think, because, you know, all the other girls were doing games and playing and stuff.
Yeah. Well, we've been and looked at the property. Were the basketball courts there when you were there?
Yeah, there were basketball courts, and there was a little picnic-like area with picnic tables, and that's where in the summer we would meet. Our families would be out there, and they used to have little gatherings from time to time. I just remember Mr. Michaels was the principal of Dunleavy School at that time, and I can't remember what it was that he came out there for, but he knew me, so I got to be the person on the dunking machine. That was the event of my life at that time. And I can't remember what that gathering was, but they sometimes had little gatherings, but they usually, you know, didn't last very long. Everybody always tried to make the kids out there happy. I mean, they really did a lot. People from all over, I think, would donate and everything. I'm just really curious what could have ever happened to a lot of that stuff, because there was a lot there, I know. I don't remember. We weren't allowed. There was that little area where the basketball courts were and the picnic tables were the only place we were allowed to go, but I think the boys had a ball field on the other side. If you remember the slide that came down from the 3rd floor, well, that was actually an emergency exit, and I didn't do anything with that.
Somebody shared a story about sliding down that slide.
I'm sure there were plenty that did, but I remember that slide, and the boys were out that direction of the home was where they used to get out there and play ball and this and that. But only during visitations were we ever, well, at dinner we were mixed, you know, the boys and the girls, but other than that, we were not really around each other too much.
So since there wasn't that much on the outside of the property, were there any like farm animals or anything? Like,
I don't think so. I don't even remember a cat or a dog or anything like that. I don't think so. There might have been, I would say probably at one time, I'll bet they had cows out there for milk, I would think.
That's what we were trying to figure out.
Yeah.
When we did the research on the infirmary, they had a large farm that the people who stayed there would help them with. So that we were trying to figure out if they had the same type of setup at the children's home for them, because I know they grew a lot of their own food and, you know, provided a lot of their own meat and stuff like that at the infirmary farm. So we've been trying to figure out if the children's home had the same type of setup.
I know that they had a garden, but it wasn't that big of a garden, I'm sure. But again, that lady, I know she had a pretty good sized garden at her house, and that might have been something, you know, that she did between them. I don't know, because she'd been there for years and years, I guess.
Yeah.
You know how the county is around here. You kind of become family, and, you know, you just fall into place and start doing things.
Pretty accurate description.
Yeah. I think we've all fallen into this.
Yeah, we're all going to be here forever. How would you describe the building conditions themselves? Like, was it clean?
It was
it
excellent.
comfortable?
It was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. Aunt Helen got out there with that buffer up and down those stairs. She buffed those stairs every day.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, that woman worked hard. She got up there at that buffer every day, and it was beautiful always. So there was never any dirt or anything. We all were given jobs, you know, dusting, things that little girls could do. But she made sure that place was spotless, and I don't remember ever seeing anything that would be a question. Because I gotta say, even though I didn't grow up with my parents, my mom was extremely clean. So, you know, I was accustomed to that. If anything would have been unusual, I would have noticed.
So if you were doing some chores, like the young girls were cleaning and whatnot, and Aunt Helen was doing anything, was there any cleaning staff that ever came in, or was it all just taken?
It was all us, yeah.
Okay.
It was all within the facility itself. Okay. There might have, I'm sure there was, I was trying to figure out, I'm sure there had to be another maintenance man besides Pop Saunders, but he may have been the only one that did maintenance.
What was their role at the children's home?
They were in charge of the home, everything. They, like the money that came in, they were the ones that kept the books for the money, and they were a wonderful couple. My brother actually worked with him at Kings Island years and years, like 30-some years later. I don't know if he still works there or not.
What's his real name?
What was his first name? You know, I can't remember. Mom and Pop Saunders. I cannot remember what their names were.
Did everybody call them Mom and Pop?
Yeah, everybody called them Mom and Pop.
Were they like an integral part of the home? Did you see them frequently?
Yeah, we saw them regularly. Whenever we went to meals, they were always there. They came out and had meals with us, and you know, if we wanted to talk or whatever, they had an open door policy. Actually, the door stood open to their apartment. If I recall, most of the time that door always stood open, so you could always go in there. But they would come out and we'd go to meals, and you know, they were always available to us. I can't remember if there was anybody else that ever came around, but I don't think so. I think Helen took care of everything on our side, and there Curtis and I can't remember the other woman's name that took care of the boys. But I know they had a job because those boys were wild.
That was a 2-to-1 ratio.
Okay, so you already talked about obviously doing some chores, and you older had some other responsibilities. Did you all complete chores on a daily basis, on a weekly basis?
We had regular things that we would do every day, and then it seemed like on the weekend, like on Saturday, would be the day to clean, and everybody gets their body and the place clean and ready for church the following day. Yeah. And then they would take us to church on a bus on Sundays.
What church did you go to?
We went to it was a Church of God, but I can't tell you. It was over by Middletown, if I recall. And everybody went, and
Did you have a choice whether you could go or not?
no, we all went.
They went to church. So you've already talked a bit about the money that was there, but were your clothing and shoes and personal items all provided, or did that come out of a different fund? Do you know?
The county actually supplied everything for the kids. However, my dad always paid for my brother and I guess that was pretty uncommon, really, but he always paid for us. And but the county ordinarily supplied everything. They would take, mom and pop solders, be just like regular parents, take you at the end of the summer to get clothes for the, and I think they probably didn't buy us quite as much as they would have, because they knew Christmas was coming, all these people would be donating all this stuff.
Right.
So that's probably had a lot to do with the way they purchased the stuff. But yeah, we didn't lack for anything. Dr. Young, Ralph Young, was the doctor for the home. I remember him well too.
Did he come to the home?
No, we would go to his office.
Right there,
there
on Broadway?
Yeah, on Broadway, yep. Had the fish tank in there.
All right, so we've talked a bit about how you guys got some of those random outdoor activities occasionally, but what other kind of activities were planned and organized for you guys?
Well, the biggie was once a year. AAA, I just found out recently, it's AAA actually who does it. They have Orphan Day. Well, they probably don't call it that anymore at Coney Island. And anybody that was associated with children's home, foster home, anything like that, they had a day specifically for us, and we had a little badge, and we got to go everywhere, ride anything we wanted, eat anything we wanted, and we had it was just a wonderful day always, every year. That was a biggie.
And did you get to do that all 8-ish years you were there, every year?
I can remember going a couple of times, but ordinarily they pretty much made sure that everybody was included for anything. And then we did church, sometimes I usually got involved with church stuff, and they would let me do things like that. And people would take us out on the weekends. There was a couple in Middletown, as a matter of fact, that used to take my brother out. They wanted to adopt him, but my dad wouldn't allow that. But people would take you out for the weekend, and then, take you out to the movie and show you a good time. And it was always nice. And then they would, this one couple always took my brother. I think that's the only place he ever went. But I went a few different places, and everybody was always really nice. They just wanted to make you have a happy weekend, so that was no problem at all. But we didn't have, the kids would play games, and there were always tons and tons of games and things like that. I didn't have a whole lot of organized things going on, but the skating rink would have parties sometimes, and they would invite us, and various things like that. And the JCs at Christmas time, that was always wonderful, because they would take us out to downtown Lebanon. That's when all the stores were in downtown Lebanon. And you go shopping, they'd give us money, and we'd go shopping for our families. And that was always fun. Then we'd have hot chocolate and all the fun stuff. And I don't think there was a parade back then, but the people would gather a lot, and there was Santa Claus there in the Golden Limb area.
There used to be a wagon down there that Santa Claus was in.
Yeah, and he had a little electric heater that sat in
Okay.
there.
Was he outside?
No, he was in a little wagon.
He was in a little
Oh,
wagon. It was a
inside
little
of-
white
oh, okay.
wagon. It was just room for him and his chair, basically. And they had a little Christmas tree and stuff in there. And you go in there and tell Santa what you wanted for Christmas. I couldn't believe they stopped doing that, because that was one of the neatest things in Lebanon, I thought.
I was gonna say, was the Christmas tree a big thing then? Obviously, that's before it got taken down.
No, that came along years later, I believe.
I was gonna say, 'cause
I
that,
can't remember. There was a building there on that corner before, and I can't remember what it was. But
There was a building there.
There was a building, and it may have been in connection with.
Yeah, on Christmas tree.
Okay.
where the fountain is now.
Yeah.
I can't remember what was in that building anymore, but that Christmas tree is nice. I saw it this year when it was lit up. That's pretty.
This is the second round because they took down the old one
Mm-hmm.
because it got too big, and so they put in a fountain, and then everyone got mad, so they put up a Christmas tree again.
Oh.
They put a new one back up.
Oh, wow. Well, I wish they put Santa Claus back.
Start a
Petition.
Yeah.
Tear that bank building down. Outside of that, it's okay.
We're gonna need some plans for the wagon, so we can get that back together.
All right, so I've heard a few stories about your time at the children's home before I actually met you.
Oh, no. This
Don't
is
worry.
good.
No, this is about. So, because you were older, is it that you were able to sometimes stay up later by yourself in the living space and like watch TV and
Who would have told you that?
who knows?
I
Can't trust them.
Yeah.
Such a small town.
Helen
here
was so
in
sweet.
Lebanon.
Helen knew I smoked. I mean, I've been smoking since I was old enough to hold a damn cigarette. It was. I've already had lung cancer. I've been through it all. I know I've made.
I won't tell you how to live your life.
Yeah, really. I did it the wrong way. Believe me. I can tell you all the wrong stuff. Yeah, Helen smoked. Everybody smoked back then.
Right.
Everybody smoked. She smoked Chesterfield cigarettes, and they used to have a little coupon in the cigarettes, and you could buy stuff with those coupons. Well, one night she used to let me stay up late. Like I said, the second floor was where the TV was and everything. So the other kids were upstairs asleep, and I really wasn't gonna bother anybody. So she'd let me stay up on Friday or Saturday night and watch TV, watch a late movie. That was big for them. And one night she did it, and she left her cigarettes laying there. And I thought about it, but I loved Helen to death, and I wasn't gonna do anything to make her upset. And the next day she said something to me about, I accidentally left my cigarettes laying there. I was really surprised they were all still there. I said, I wouldn't steal from you. I wouldn't steal from you. She said, oh, okay. So the next week she left them out there. So I could indulge if I needed to. But she knew, that was something that I did. And it was like working. I had already worked. All the clothes that I had when I got there, I bought myself. And I had mini skirts. And they didn't like my mini skirts a bit, so they gave all my clothes away.
Oh no!
And I was not happy about that. So she was trying to, she knew I was upset over those clothes, and and I was getting older, and we had just come back in again, and it was, she had the right idea.
So
She thought,
you left at 12 and came back?
well, I went the first time. I was either 6, 7, I think, because I'm sure Benny was 4. I'm almost certain he was 4 when we left South Street. And we went into foster home then, and we were there for a year, and then I was going to run away, and they found my letter. This 2-year-old boy got my purse off of the mantle in the living room and found that letter. Can you imagine that little 2-year-old doing that? But it said, I was writing to my parents and saying, this woman she took this 2-year-old, another 2-year-old, was out in the yard. She put the kids outside. This is this foster home I went to first. I'm kind of getting off the story here.
That's okay.
But you might want to. She would put the little ones outside at daybreak, and they weren't allowed to come back in until dark. They went straight to the bathtub and to bed. And I was inside cleaning the house, and she'd be laying on the couch calling all her friends, saying, I've been up here washing windows and walls all day long, and I'm up here on the ladder going, yeah, okay, thanks. Yeah, but I got my education. I bet you there's not a window washer in the world as good as I am. But she was bad. But this one 2-year-old was outside with the other kids, and her husband smoked cigars, these big stogies. And he would throw the butt over in the yard, you know, and this kid picked up that stogie and was looking at it. She went out there and made him eat that. She made him eat every bit of that. It was just disgusting. That kid was throwing up. It was horrible. And my brother, God, don't ever tell me. Well, no, we're on tape. I ain't gonna tell you. I was afraid she was gonna try to start something like that with my brother. And I just made up my mind. We weren't staying there. So I wrote my mom and dad a letter. I don't know what I said in the letter. I said, but I'm getting ready, and me and Benny are leaving. So, well, they caught me. And that day when I came back from school, oh, and the other thing was I got ran over by a car, and when Mrs. Lambert, do you remember her?
Carolyn.
She picked me up. It was down by the old high school. I was coming from Dunleavy School. As a matter of fact, I was coming from Dunleavy School, was about to cross the street. And this lady ran over me, ran over both of my legs, knocked me down, and just happened, Miss Lambert was not, she was in that line of traffic, I believe. Anyway, she stopped, and a lot of time went by, and the woman who did it took off, and so it was, you know, it was kind of screwy. So it was probably an hour at least late before I got to the house, and when we got to the house, Mrs. Lambert came in with me, right behind me, but Mrs. Malco didn't see her, and she yelled out, you know, something, making fun of me, calling me names and stuff, and Mrs. Lambert said, ma'am? She's been run over. You're gonna have to take her to the doctor. So the doctor told me I had horse bones because I didn't have anything broken, but he gave me pain pills. I remember he gave her Darvon to give me. So I never did see any of those. I was supposed to lay at home and put my feet up for a few days. I went straight to school the next day. So it was that and the cigar butt, that was it. I said, no, we're out of here. And so they found that, and Benny had just turned school age, so they moved us that night. They moved us to Mary Haven, and that was not. Mary Haven really wasn't a bad place, and I get really mad when I hear people saying, like somebody said, some guy killed himself out there because of the treatment or something. It was not the same place. If anybody could be driven to something like that, because that place was, I mean, between my family and Mary Haven, we were much better off. We were much better off, and I'll never change my opinion there. And I think some people come up with crazy stories just to have crazy stories. But.
Okay, so I know that we talked a bit about the holidays, but what did you guys do around holiday time? Was it like decorated? Did you have special meals? Did you get more visitation time?
We put a little bit of stuff out. I mean, they always decorated everything, but most of the time everybody was taken out by family or people that would take you out and for a week or so, like while we were off from Christmas vacation from school. And I can remember again a family in Middletown that used to take me out, and I can't remember their names. It just kills me. I can't remember some of these people. But they were usually, you know, really together. I don't think anybody ever stayed at the home over the holidays. They may have, and I wasn't aware, but I think most of the time they always had somebody who would take them out. I think they probably made a big effort to make sure that everybody was included in the runaround. And then they'd have a little get together for all of us.
So you went, when 9, and then you ran away around 12.
Let's
Is
see.
that right?
Well, first, let's see. I was either 6 or 7. Well, no, I was 8 because it was a year after when he was old enough. So I was 8. I'm trying to remember how long we were there at Mary Haven. A year or 2, I think. I'm really having a hard time with the timeline myself. But then my parents got back together, and they bought a new house and did all this stuff, and we went back to our parents. And then my mom went berserk and drunk and took everything my dad owned and all the money and took off. So in those days, there was no way they would let a father have
No.
single custody. So they took us right away then.
So you went back.
And that's when we went back. And we might have only been there a year before I ran away. I just can't remember for sure. I just can't figure that out. My brother, I've tried to talk to him too. He can't completely remember anything either. It is funny though, after all these years, we're talking about things that we never talked about before, and it's kind of weird.
Well, time is not quite the same when you're that age either. So, like, you
Yeah.
know, 6 months can feel like a couple years. So.
Let's see, I never thought about how he felt when I ran away.
Yeah.
But that morning, when he looked across the stairs and I was gone, it must have broke his heart. And for years and years, I never knew that. I never knew it. But stuff happens.
So we already talked about church. Did you guys attend Sunday school as well, or just church?
Yeah, Sunday school. It seemed like sometimes we stayed for church and sometimes we didn't. I think maybe if the kids were real crazy, maybe they just went ahead.
I'll just send them back.
That might have been the days that we went on home, because I don't think we stayed for church all the time.
So we've talked about how wonderful Aunt Helen was and Mom and Pop Saunders. Is there anybody else on staff you'd like to talk about, or how they were?
Other than that cook, I really can't remember that much about him. I wish I could have I'll try again to get a hold of Doug York. I would love to talk to him myself, because I haven't seen him since I left there.
Mm-hmm.
Is he around this area?
Do you know Tanya Blair?
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm pretty sure she's the one that told me he is now in Otterbein.
Oh.
He recently went there, but I'm not sure where. I'm pretty sure it was her. I need to find out for sure. I would love to talk to him. Did you know Doug York?
No. Mm-mm.
He's the only one I know of that was there his whole life, as far as I know.
Yeah.
This kind of plays off earlier when we were talking. This is a random question I have for you. We talked a bit about how it was school-age kids. What happened, and you said when they were 18 they left. What happened if someone, say, turned 18 partway through their senior year of high school? What would happen to them?
I think it would be extended to when the school year was over. They did try to keep kids at school for sure.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's how that worked. And I think they also, I don't know for sure, that's another thing I'd like to talk to Doug about, but I think that they actually worked with them to have an apartment, you know, and a job and everything lined up before they would leave there. I'm sure that they did.
Yeah, that would be interesting to find out. Also, they used to have a nursery at Mary Haven, so I'd be interested to find out when they stopped housing infants. Yeah.
That's interesting.
We talked to an individual recently whose grandfather, she was, I would say, about 60, and her grandfather was there
When he was a child.
in the
like shortly after it.
1890s.
Yeah, not too long after it
that
was
must have been
established.
interesting.
But they had a sibling who was under the age of 2, and apparently they were placed within a nursery at
Wow.
Mary Haven and were kept entirely separate. Once they hit a certain age, they were introduced to the general population of
That
Mary
makes
Haven,
sense.
but they had a specific nursery for
Wow.
young kids, and nobody saw the little ones. Like, they were kept entirely separate.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I'd like to know about that too.
So first we had heard about that.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So we've discussed your 72 batches of cookies. What did they have any specific forms of discipline that children received, or was it kind of a fit the crime
It was
ordeal?
kind of fit the crime thing. Well, the boys, you know, they had trouble with boys. They weren't used to having a girl that would do things like that. That was
You threw him for a loop.
You broke the mold.
There's always one, right?
Gotta start somewhere.
oh Lord, where'd this one come from?
Alright.
Just like to think of it as an independent thinker.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly
Let's
it.
frame it the right way.
So you were one of the older individuals. Were children past a certain age able to have jobs outside of the home?
No.
Okay.
It seemed like, I know that they had a work release program in high school, but I don't remember how they handled that for us, whether that would apply to us or not. I never made it to high. Well, I actually was in the 9th grade when I quit. The final time. But I'm not sure how they did that. It would be interesting to know some of that stuff, but I don't know how they worked that.
Let's see. So once you left Mary Haven for good, what was your life like? Like, did it seem to affect your future schooling or your jobs, marriage, children, anything of the variety you can think of?
Well, after they realized that my incorrigibility could be changed just a little bit, the Judge Bowers actually said, well, you seem to do better when you work on your own and you don't have any supervision, so I'm going to let you go. Well, actually, I was on parole for a year. You had to be on state parole for a year. And I'll never forget well, no, I won't say that here. But I was surprised at my parole officer. She was from Cincinnati, and I only saw her once. And when she came, she just said, well, the judge said this about how well you did. You worked and took care of yourself and all this stuff. So he's leaving it up to you if you want to continue. Because I was working at the sweet shop.
Oh.
Well, I didn't while I was at Mary Haven, but when I got back out of Mary Haven, I went back to the sweet shop. I worked for Roy Wallace. And so now I've lost track. Where was I at?
You were working at the sweet shop, and
We were
Judge
just-
Bowers said you had done so well.
Oh, yeah. I think I was either 14 or 15 when he said, pretty much go do what you want to do. But I was living in a foster home because when I got released from, I guess I skipped out, but when I got released from reform school from incorrigibility, they were going to put me in a foster home because my parents were still not together and my dad wasn't allowed to have us. So they were going to place me in a foster home, and it could have been anywhere in the state. But Marge Sibsey and my dad, I guess, had a conversation, and they knew each other, and Marge knew me. I was friends with all her daughters, Tammy and Joan and Debbie. And so she said she would take me. So I was released to her care from Mary Haven. I mean, not Mary Haven, but the reform school. And then I'm pretty sure it was just after the year, whenever they said I could kind of go do what I wanted to do. I don't know why I can't get it straight in my mind, but Mouse, Debbie Sipsey, who is my foster sister, she and I just got together again like a couple of weeks ago for the first time in over 50 years. And neither one of us can remember how it ended. We don't remember me leaving or what happened. I mean, it wasn't bad. I only have good memories, but for some reason, neither one of us can remember it. So I don't know when I left there, but I think I was 15.
When you say reform school, was that the detention center?
No, that was, first they send you to JDC in Columbus.
Oh.
And for evaluation, I guess they do psychological evaluation there, is what I understand now. And then they determine there what to do with you from that point. Like if I'd have been a real hardcore, they'd send me somewhere. Of course, there were girls in there that had killed their parents.
Well, I think the part we missed, you and I discussed before we started the interview, that you were out past curfew, right? Which is what you got in trouble for originally.
Right.
Okay, so that was where the incorrigibility
Yeah, yeah, I just...
charge was happened, which led to you going to the reform school.
Right. Well, when I ran away, that was a big no-no. You don't even upset the cart that bad. So, you know, I knew when I did it, I knew that they would do something with me. I knew I wouldn't go back to the home, but I did it, and I won't discuss this because my brother and I don't remember it the same, but now I lost track of where I was. See, the more I go, the worse I get. Leaving the home. Anyway, I went to live with my dad then for a while, but I have lost it. Take a drink, start over again. Oh, about running away. That's yeah. They made an example of me. Bill Tibbs. Did you know Bill Tibbs?
Was he a postman?
Deputy sheriff. He and I met 40 years later in a bar and had a beer one night and started talking about my incorrigibility and running away from the home. And he said, well, you know they made an example of you. And I said, well, yeah, I knew that. But, you know, we had a conversation and it was all pretty clear. It worked out the way that I had planned it to. I just wish I would have had a little bit more planning, and I didn't have an unwanted guest one with me.
Yes.
But I think I was finished with the. I never had anything to do with the court again until I joined the military, and I had to get Judge Bowers to sign the papers. And the first paperwork I signed, I changed my age. I made myself a year older so I could go. And I guess he didn't even pay any attention. He was so glad to get rid of me. He went ahead and signed it. So it's taken me my whole life to straighten out my records because I had the wrong date. And then when I got married, I found out my name was spelled wrong on my birth certificate because I'd never seen my birth certificate before. So it's just a ball of confusion. It just keeps going and going and going. It's crazy.
So when you did run away, did they catch you? Or how exactly did you wind up in JDC? Like, what's the in-between there?
Well, it was exciting. Well, the first night, I gotta tell you this night, I would love to find this man. This girl was with me. I think she was 1 year or 2 years younger than me. That was one of the reasons they hung the whole thing on me. But she was kind of worried. She was kind of scared. We got a job working for there's a whole lot more involved, but I'll try to make it as short as possible. We got a job working for a magazine company, selling magazines door to door. And they were living in this motel. And so they paid for our motel room. We had a motel room and everything. And, but they had what they called spur crews. And few people would go one direction to another town, a few people go to another town, and then we'd all meet like in a big city. New York City is where we were headed. We were going to meet in New York City, but we would be selling magazines all along the way, you know, and then all meet up again. And they were going to separate her from me, and I think that's what happened is she got scared that we were going to be separated. She called her mom that night.
Oh.
And 6 o'clock in the morning, I wake up with a gun in my face, flashlight in my eyes, like I had committed a murder or something. Go outside. This was in this motel. It was in Hamilton. And the motel's still there, as a matter of fact. I took my daughter to a party one time, about had a heart attack. That's where it was at. But when we came out of the motel room, there were cops all the way around the pool, and all of them standing there with their guns out. Just like I was some crazy person or something. I don't know. I never did get to talk to her again. Unfortunately, she has died, and I never got to speak with her again. But they said, you know, it was my fault, which it was. I mean, I had it all planned out. So we didn't get to see each other, but I went to reform school, and she went back with her mother. Somehow she ended up going back with her mother, which I thought was kind of weird. If she couldn't go there to begin with, you know, it didn't make any sense. But I never did get to find out until I met Lola on Facebook, and you know, we've talked, and I found out things, and her little sister, I can't think of her little sister's name. Anyway, she remembered me too. She just latched on to me at the home when they brought them there. I was like her big sister. She followed me everywhere, and I can remember she was even standing there when Karen and I left, and because I figured she'd throw a fit, but she didn't. So it's kind of weird how you go through your whole life and you don't think about the little things that happened along the way that you missed.
Okay, so obviously you just told us that you talked to some individuals on Facebook who were also children from the home.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever just randomly ran into someone from the home?
No, never have. No, I keep thinking and hoping that I will, but I don't know it. Well, no, actually, that's not true. David Amix. Did you know David Amix?
Name's familiar, but
He was in my class. He got a really bad drug problem. I ran into him in the 80s in Dayton. I was on a bus, and I heard somebody yell Kiwi when I was getting off the bus. I said, oh my God, I know they know me. And, it was him, and his hair was green. His hair was gray naturally, but it was green where he had been huffing that stuff. What they call toll or something like that. And then I saw another guy on Oprah one time who was talking about how terrible Mary Haven was, and that was the reason why he was a drug addict. I went nuts on that one. I started to call that day, and I wish now I would have done it, but I'm not sure who that was. I think his name was John Crane or Crace, or I'm pretty sure I know who it was. But I'd love to find him, because that was really a line of Crockett or whatever was his name. But no, on a regular basis now, I don't run into too many people.
Well, that comes to the end of our written questions. Is there anything you'd like to share with us that you would like people to know about your experience? Anything that just is very memorable in your brain?
Just mostly about Helen, because she was such a super lady. And Mom and Pop Saunders, they were super good people too.
Yeah.
You know, I had no problems with the people that were involved there. Well, the social worker was like 90 years old and never had a child. So nobody could understand that one. I didn't see her anymore after I attempted to run away from the foster home. That was the last time I ever saw her, when she took us to Mary Haven.
Do you remember what her name was?
I was trying to think. Lola does. I forgot. Well, actually, Lola, if I don't have this mixed up, Lola was actually adopted by the Malacotes, the woman that I didn't get along with.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this was, I think we figured out, and it was 5 or 6 years later or something like that when she went there. And I said, well, she already made all her mistakes with me. She had nothing good to say about her, so I felt guilty for talking bad about her. But I said, well, no, I'm not going to feel guilty, because that's just the way it was.
All right. Anybody, any more questions? No?
So, you're an optometrist?
Optician.
Optician. What's the difference?
Optometrist is actually a physician.
Okay.
I do the measurements, and I fit contact lenses and instruct contact lenses, and
So did you get
make glasses. I can make glasses from
Did you
beginning.
get that experience in the military?
No, actually, I got run over by a drunk driver back in the 80s. None of my life has been planned. None of my life has been planned. It's all been a crazy accident. When I got ready to go back to work, I was off work for a couple of years. I was in pretty bad shape, and I was still on crutches, and my doctor said, you can have it, you can go back to work 3 hours a day. And I'm like, oh yeah, right, where am I going to find a job for 3 hours a day? Went to the Dayton Daily News, and there's a contact lens laboratory needed somebody 3 hours a day. I couldn't believe it. And that's how I got into this business. I started working there making contact lenses.
You've led a very interesting life.
It's been fun.
Well, we very much appreciate learning about it. You are definitely the most information we've ever learned about the inside of the building.
Oh, well, that's good.
And
well, it was a beautiful
adventures
building.
you guys went on, like, we did not know that so many trips were happening, or that families were able to just take you out for the holidays. None of this.
Oh yeah, that was a big thing, you know, the people in the neighboring communities taking us out. That made a big difference to everybody, I'm sure.
I don't suppose you have any pictures of anything?
In those days, no. I don't know anybody that would even have any pictures. I'm sure there were pictures taken by my dad, maybe even back then, but I don't know. I got one box of pictures, and there's nothing in there from Mary Haven.
Yeah.
I feel like there's probably something I should tell you about somebody, but I can't think of that.
Well, if that's the way you feel, you can always contact us later if something just like comes to mind and you want to share with us, or Doug that you've talked about, or Lola if you would like to reach out to them and say, hey, come talk to us. They can even send an email if they want. We are more than happy to talk to anybody. We want to know all the information we can get our hands on.
Oh, I sure will. Lola didn't actually live in Mary Haven, I don't believe, at any time, but her sisters did. She was the middle sister. Her mom was really screwed up from, what I understand. So I don't even know how Karen ended up going back there, but she did. But I'll ask Lola if she got anything to throw in there, because she might have some things that...
Yeah, if she's got any pictures or anything like that, we could always scan them and return them to her.
Yeah.
We just like anything.
I'll ask her, because unfortunately her sister's husband recently passed away, and they just had and her husband passed
Yes.
also. So they were having a party at her house to celebrate. Yeah, and I get evidently her sister's husband died. I haven't got it clear yet. I don't know whether they were en route to Texas for the party when he died, or whether something happened.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, but I didn't catch exactly what happened, but we had talked. She accidentally sent me the information about this celebration of life, and I said, well, I'd love to come if I could, but I don't know if I'll be able. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. And then she said that they were going to have this thing, and then we talked a couple of different times, but then the next time that we spoke very much, she said that they were on their way to that. Oh, that's what it was. I asked her if everything was going good with the reunion of all of them, because all the kids were going to be there. And she said the husband had died, and I wasn't clear, and I didn't want to, go into a big thing on Facebook.
Yeah.
But that was, so I don't know if it happened. It had to have been since I talked to her when they were in the planning stage.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it happened on the way or not.
All right, well, I imagine that is probably the end of our interview for today. So we thank you so much for coming in.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you're doing this. I think it's a good thing.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end the recording.
Now let me tell you the real story.